Hi, this is Al Milgrom, and you're listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. It's episode 159, and I am your host, Rick Verbanis, and I am joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there. That's some guy named Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob, I'm not dead. I'm not dead. I think I'll go for a walk. I feel happy.
I've heard that, but I can't put my finger on it.
I don't want to go on the cart.
Is this a Monty Python skit?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the bring out your dead scene.
Oh, yes, classic.
Right? Bring out your dead. And then there's John Cleese, who is holding this old man over his shoulder. And the guy, Eric Idle's doing the cart. And he's like, bring out your dead. And then he's like, how much? I think he said something like 7 pence or whatever. And he's like, I'm not dead. I can't take him. It's against regulations. Oh, he'll be dead in a minute. I feel better. You're not fooling anyone.
That's a classic.
That's a great scene. Anyway, why am I bringing that up to you in this particular opening, Bob?
I don't want to give away the cliffhanger here. I'm not the cliffhanger, but I don't want to give away the twist.
It is a twist.
Yeah.
It is a little twist. And
Christy.
actually, there's a couple twists in this particular issue.
And shouts.
Yeah, there are plenty of shouts.
Yeah.
And anyway, there is somebody who's not dead yet in this one. And
we thought was dead.
Right. And then in the Monty Python and Quest for the Holy Grail, there's a castle. Right. And what, Bob, are we reviewing today?
It's issue 256, Rick, The Ghosts of Greymoor Castle.
Exactly. So that was the reason I went with that particular opening. And for our Monty Python fans out there, I hope you love that as much as I do. It's a great scene. So Bob, couple things. Moments before I got on the mic with you, I'm doing some last minute work for this episode, and in the peripheral of my vision, I see something, and inches from my head, there is a spider that is just coming down a strand from the ceiling slowly with its things just going down, 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 down. It's just inches away from my face. And I gotta tell you, normally if I find a spider in the house, I try to like save it and like put it outside or something like that, because they're whatever. I don't like spiders. I don't. But this one I was like, I got a napkin and killed it.
You rather prefer to like put them outside where they can die slowly from the cold. I got it. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. Was I supposed to like chuck them into a little hole in my house?
Little hidey hole. Yeah. Right.
So now I'm like paranoid. I'm constantly looking up and like, is there any more spiders? Is it going to come up? Luckily, my ceiling is painted white, so they would kind of stand out. Oh, this was one of those light colored spiders, more like translucent.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the tricky ones. Well, his amigos are coming, so.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah. You killed Bob.
He fell asleep. We get him.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's why I don't sleep with my mouth open.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's probably a good idea anyway.
Yeah. How's your week going, Bob?
It's going all right. It's going all right. Keep him busy. But all things considered, as my dear old mom once said, I'm still vertical. So, hey, who can complain?
Exactly.
Yeah. How about
Every
yourself?
day above ground.
Yeah, that's it.
Doing well, busy at work. And I'm just super, super busy. So apologies to everyone out there who, if I have not gotten back to them, there's a few things I need to get out in the mail. I want you to know it is on my list, and I am really working hard to trying to get through stuff. So, but Bob, I feel old.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
My wife and I went to go see a concert Saturday night. We went to
Yeah.
go see the Zach Brown Band. Do you know who they
Oh,
are?
I don't. I don't.
They're kind of like a country pop kind of band. Kind of along the lines of like a Jimmy Buffett, but a little bit more country than him, I guess.
Okay.
They've had a ton of hits over the last 10, 15 years. And we've seen them before, and we went to the same place. It was the PNC Bank Pavilion outdoor thing here in like Central Jersey.
Okay.
Weather was not good.
Yeah.
It was in the 50s. It had just finished raining an hour before. We have lawn seats. We're on an incline. It's muddy. You're doing a little slipping and sliding.
Yeah.
And then, but here's the thing. I have been doing lawn seats for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
Right. And especially every Jimmy Buffett show I've been to, it's just, that's where the party is. That's where you have a good time. And I've always, had, no problems, no real problems. And so, I don't know if you know this about me, Bob. I'm a little territorial.
I didn't know that, but I'm not shocked.
I have my personal space, and I like my personal space, which really surprises people because I'm a hugger.
Yeah.
Like
on your own
I'm
terms.
a hugger, but yeah.
But hug me. Okay, that's enough.
Right. But like my personal space around me is, what it is. And so like, like for instance, if I go to the beach and I put out my beach blanket, put out my chairs and my umbrella, and then like people start walking across my blanket, I get a little ticked off.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's understandable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, whenever I go to these outdoor concerts, we try to get there early when the gates open. At this time we couldn't. It was like maybe 30, 40 minutes after the gate opened, but still before the show. We have our blanket and we have a plastic sheet, to put under the blanket and over top of the blanket. Right. And when we have, it's going to be cold. So there's like a jacket, and then we get our space, and it's a decent space. Right. And I want to point this out. My wife and I are standing next to each other. So it's about that width, maybe another, I don't know, a foot on either side, nothing extravagant. And then in front of us, enough so that if we sat on our butts and extended our legs, it was covered. Not significantly over that. Right. I mean, this is like a legitimate, we're not like being like rude or anything.
Yeah.
So, we go and we get some food, some cocktails, we come back, we sit and we eat. We listen to the first show, opener, the second opener, and then it gets dark.
Uh-huh.
Now, at this point, people just start coming down the hill to get closer to the stage.
Uh-huh.
And they're just, walking right over our stuff, and I'm
with their muddy feet at that.
Yes,
probably.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my backup, right? I'm not digging this. Then, and by the way, there was a family next to us on the right-hand side. There was a mom and a dad and two boys, probably in that, 8 to 12 range.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in front of me was a couple. They were probably in their mid to late 20s. They were there. And eventually, and by the way, the people to my right, like both the mom and the dad were just yelling at people, like, get off their blanket. And they're, right. And then they eventually just left.
Yeah.
Okay. The couple in front of us eventually left.
Uh-huh.
Now there's this vacuum, and then all these people come in. Now there is this flock of teenage girls.
Okay.
That came in, and we found out later they were 16.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'd say, when I say a flock, I mean 8 to 10 of them. right? And they're all coordinated. They're all wearing their short little jean shorts and their white tops, and cowboy hats and everything. Cause it's 52 degrees outside.
Right.
And so anyway, I see what's about to happen. So I stand a little bit closer to the corner, the edge, because I know these girls are just going to trample over our food, our drinks, our jack, whatever.
Yeah.
And sure enough, one of the girls backs into me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I just put my hands up, like close to my chest, like, just kind of like this. And then she leans up against me and then she turns around and I'm just like, hi, like I'm right here. What are you doing? She leans back into her group of girls and yells at the top of her lungs, pedophile. Pedophile. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on here? And then this little girl, now listen, I'm 5'6", right? I'm not the tallest guy.
Yeah.
She was like barely 5, if that, 5 foot tall. And she comes up to me and she's just yelling at me and getting in my face. And she's like threatening me and like, come on, what are you going to do? You going to, why don't you, push me? All the girls have their phones up and their cameras on and everything. And I'm being
I have
videotaped.
to ask my son if he's seen this on TikTok.
So at this point, I just start looking around and I'm like,
Megan.
which one is the mature person here? Like, is there a mature person amongst this group that can take care of this little girl? Like, what's going on? I don't understand what's happening right now. I turn my head, look at my wife. One of the girls slaps the back of my head to knock my hat off.
Oh my God.
I turn around and I'm like, and the girl's like, I don't know what happened. Right. And I'm like, seriously, really? And then I pick up my hat, I put it on, which is now muddy. Yeah. And then I'm standing there and this other girl, whatever, I'm just trying to calm down the whole situation. Yeah. But at the same time, not like let them get away with it. You know what I mean? Not like, like you're, like this isn't proper behavior. Right. And then, so I turn my head again, boom, hat's back on the ground again. Right. At this point, there was 3 guys behind me. They maybe were pushing 20 years old. Yeah. And they're just like, dude, what's going on with these girls? And he hands me the hat. Right. So my wife comes over and she's like, listen, let's just switch places. And then she starts talking to them. And the little girl gets up in her face and she's like, and my wife's just like, listen, we're just here to watch a show. Well, I'm here to watch a show. Okay. Well, the show's that direction. Turn around and watch the show. You turn around, I just like this kind of BS, right? Yeah. So this is my own personal hell, by the way. Yeah. Okay. Because 2 things are happening here. 1, my personal space is totally being disrespected. And number 2, I'm being accused of something I never did, which is, by the way, one of my worst nightmares coming true. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get us another round. So I go and I track up this muddy, slippery hill and I'm gone for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And I come back and there, right before I left, there was a guy, he might've been 20-ish, early 20s. And he was a big guy and he was very quiet and he never said a word. Yeah. And he just stared at the girls who were all of a sudden now like he was their new victim. Yeah. Right. I come back, he's gone. And my wife tells me that the security team came over and escorted him out because they called the security team to say that he touched, like we're inappropriately touching him. Yeah. Like, and also that he had fallen. Yeah. And like the girls were like laughing and one of them was kicking him. I'm like, I'm so glad I wasn't there. Yeah. Right. So at this point, I'm just like, I am not having a good time. Like I all I can focus on is that. I can't focus on the.
And now they're still there?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Then a guy comes up to me again, early 20s, and he's with a girlfriend, and he comes up and he's talking to 2 girls in front of me who took the couple's space, and then they start walking over the thing, and I'm like, I put my hands up, and I'm like, back off. I'm like, guys, you're like walking all over my stuff here. And the guy tells me, well, we bought lawn seats too. We can, you know, you don't have a right to this spot. We bought lawn seats too. We can be wherever we want. And I'm like, I've been here for 2 hours. I put down my blanket here. Like this is my little spot.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I have tickets too. I have rights.
And
I'm like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And my wife was like, you know, let's just go. And we left. We left at intermission. There was like 45 more minutes to the show.
Yeah.
So we make a long trek back to the bus. And then, you know, they're on the bus. There's probably like 24 people on the bus. They're all being, you know, driven back to the parking lot. Yeah. And I stand up and I'm just taking a survey here. By a show of hands, how many people were in the lawn seats? Every single one put their hands up. Yeah. And they're all like, it was a madhouse. It was crazy. Yeah. And they must have oversold the lawn or whatever. And all I know is, Bob, at my age, I am never doing that again. I will pay the extra money and I will go sit somewhere, you know, in an assigned seat, and I will stand up in front of my assigned seat and I will sing, dance, yell, whatever, and I will sit back down. I am not going through that again. I am. You could probably tell from me. This is 3 days later, and my blood pressure is still high.
Yeah, it sounds like it was very agitated. I can't even imagine. I'm surprised that you were able to walk away. So good for you. You're able to just sort of let it go and walk away, because I would have done everything in my power to hunt those girls down and destroy them. So good for you for just like, they're just kids. They're being dumb.
Yeah, but you know, it's like, you know, 5, 10, or 20 years ago, I never had this problem.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like a whole new generation of these kids who just don't have like any kind of respect.
Yeah.
And so I apologize, listeners out there, for taking you through this long story. But
like, I mean, are we surprised? I mean, like, who are they learning these behaviors from, if not from adults all around them?
I know. Listen, and that's the thing, listeners, if you have teenage or preteen kids, talk to them about mutual respect and talk to them about, you know, just, you know, understanding people's personal space. And, you know, it's not all about you, that there are other people, you know, around you. And anyway, you know, sorry to bring it down, but
no, you brought it down.
I'm all fired up, Bob.
Yeah, it's a good life lesson. It's important. This is, I mean, it's the inevitable result of sort of the decline in American society and the fact that we're at each other's throats all the time. And that means adults as well. And kids see this, right? I mean, there's no reason. That's exactly why they model this behavior. And so we gotta really go that extra yard with our kids and our kids' friends to model that positive social behavior. And
what would Cap do?
Looking out for each other.
All right. So
at least I know to stay off your blanket. So
damn right. You know, it's funny. I will take it to the next level. And this is embarrassing to me, so it doesn't matter. But so, Bob, do you have your own, when you sit down at the dining room table? Mm-hmm. Do you sit down at the same spot every single time?
I do.
It's not like musical chairs.
It's
right.
Not. Yeah.
No? And do you have like you know, so at your table, do you put things like on your placemat in front of your, where you normally sit, like, you know, something you'll come back to it, whether it's your phone or a cup or your keys or your wallet or a book or whatever, you know? Yeah. You know what? My kids and my wife make fun of me because they will occasionally be walking by and they will put something right there on my mat. and I'm just like, why are you putting something on my space? You know, 10 inches from here is your own mat. Why are you putting it on my space and just leaving it there? Put it on your own mat. Yeah. I recognize that is a quirk.
Kudos to them for messing with you.
But no,
they have my full support.
You would think they would be messing with me, but no, they just like, it's absent-minded.
No, like, they're not doing it on purpose.
No,
I screw with you.
I just put my keys down. I was going to put them away.
Yeah.
And they're like, why does it bother you? Why does it care? Oh, and yeah. All right, Bob, enough about me. Now,
All
what's a
right.
quirk about you?
I don't have any quirks. So,
Oh, you're perfect. That's right. I forgot.
I just asked my wife. Yeah, she'll tell you. She'll tell you I'm perfect. Yeah. You know, my
We should
quirk
get
is
Casey.
I
We
don't
should
like
get
giving away
Casey on the
stuff.
show.
Yeah.
Can we get
yeah,
Casey on the show and
that
just
would be an illuminating hour. Or
we
3.
totally. All right, listeners, how about this? Would you like to see Casey and Megan on the show at some point? Not at the same time, but just to, hey, let's find out a little bit about Bob. Let's find out a little bit about Rick.
Yeah.
You listeners, you tell us if that is something you want to do. And if enough people demand it, Bob, we will have to listen.
Yeah. We had a little bit of an argument this week. I'll be honest with you. I won't go too long with this, but I'm a big believer in heritage. And so I don't know if you know this about me, but I for a very long time I was into genealogy. I enjoy genealogical research and I enjoy holding on to heirlooms, family heirlooms.
Oh,
And
for a
not
minute
just
there,
my-
I thought you said gynecological research.
No, just regular heirlooms. And so there's quite a few on my wife's side that I have and that I've been holding on to. And some of it's furniture that was made by her great grandfather, who was a carpenter. And she's not into that at all. And of course, my son at his age is not into that at all. But my thinking is that someday he may be, or one of his kids may find some value. So, for example, we have this corner cabinet that was made for my wife's grandparents as a wedding present by his father, handcrafted, wood, lead glass. And she just assumed get rid of it. It's in the garage. We don't have it displayed anywhere because there's nowhere for me to display it, but I've got it stored in the garage. She'd like me to get rid of that. And so we're getting ready to bring a bunch of stuff over to St. Matthew's House, which is sort of like a Salvation Army sort of organization down here. And they take donations of clothes and furniture. And so there's another table that we have that it's got 2 eaves on it, so that it can be a small table, but it can open up into like a dinner table. And again, it was made by her great grandfather. And she's like, let's get rid of it. We never use it. And I'm like, yeah, but it was made by your great grandfather. And so this is like a point of tension for us where like, she's just like, wow, we're not using it. Doesn't have any value. It doesn't matter who made it or how old it is or whatever. But for me, the fact that it has this value of having been passed down through the family. And even though we may not appreciate it, maybe the next generation will appreciate it. So that's like a quirk that I have, is that I insist on holding on to these things in the face of my wife's opposition. And it's her family, for crying out loud. So.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Yeah, I am always had a hard time throwing away stuff that was made by the family. And certainly have had some grandparents that have made some things. And they haven't always made it.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to pick and choose, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
So Bob, speaking of old things that were made and family heirlooms, should we get to the castle of Greymoor?
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Let's get to that. All right, so Captain America 256 had a cover date of April 1981, which had a release date of January 6, 1981. Now, Bob, if you were on, in the comic shop and you were getting off the rack and you picked up this comic, chances are you would be very, very disappointed because this is the first issue post Roger Stern, John Byrne's run. And, we were treated to 9 issues, I think, of that run. And, there was no, they're leaving, like you just expected them to come back the next month. And it still has the John Byrne Captain America up in the corner box.
Right.
Right. And you see the cover and you're like, well, that doesn't look like a John Byrne cover, but you open it up and well, that's not John Byrne art.
Right.
And maybe if you were aloof, alert enough, you would have picked up it's a different writer and as well. So I can only imagine, the disappointment amongst many Captain America readers back then, but maybe not. Maybe there was, maybe there were kids and they were just like, I just want the next story.
That was me, 8th grade. I was in 8th grade when this came out. I'm sure I wasn't paying the least bit of attention.
I gotcha. Now, the writer for this particular issue is Bill Mantlo. Now, Bill probably might be most famous for Howard the Duck. He was, I believe, the co-creator of Howard the Duck, and he wrote that in the late 70s, early 80s. He's been writing comics since the early to mid 70s, and this is actually his second Captain America comic book. He did one back when it was Captain America and Falcon in issue 182 that came out in 1974. And then he will come back to do issue 291, which is that one-shot Tumblr story. Do you remember that? Right at the, like a little blip in front in the J.M. DeMatteis run.
Right.
So
it was wasn't it the Tumblr's brother?
Yeah. To Tame a Tumbler was the story. But for this one, so he's written Cap and the Avengers for a little bit, and so he does have some experience with them. But prior to this, he was doing a nice long run of the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, and he had done also around this time a nice run for Incredible Hulk. He had been on Incredible Hulk for a very, very long time after this. And anyway, so and also Iron Man, he was also known for, but I could go on. He's a very, very established writer. Then for the artist for this one is Gene Colan. Now, Gene Colan is obviously no stranger to Captain America. And Gene had been around since the Golden Age, right? He did a ton of comics in the 40s and the 50s, and then in the 60s as well. In fact, he did a really nice run on Captain America from issues 116 to 137. So he had a nice little 2-year run there at the end of 69 to 71. And this, after doing that 2-year run, this is his first issue back. And it's just a one shot. But I think he was the perfect artist for this story.
I 100% agree. And, I went back and I looked at some of his early stuff. He, like you said, he had drawn in the original Golden Age Captain America comic, just a couple issues. I think he did issue 72 and then I think the last issue of Captain America's Weird Comics, which ironically didn't feature Captain America at all. But he penciled those 2 issues. So he's had a long track record with Cap, and you're right. I do think because his art has been described as atmospheric.
Yeah,
it's a perfect complement for this story.
Yeah, he's inked on this particular issue by 3 different inkers. So we have Al Milgrom, Frank Giacoia, and Dave Simmons. And the what I'm reading here on marvelfandom.com, Dave Simmons did pages 1 through 11 and then came back and did the last 2 pages, 28 through 30. And then in between that, Al Milgrom did pages 12 through 21, and then Frank Giacoia did 22 through 27. So certainly this was, I think, if I had to guess, kind of a last minute type of fill-in story, because Jim Shooter, legendarily fired John Byrne and Roger Stern off the book. And so I guess they had to kind of look for replacements. In fact, the next few issues were all kind of replacement stories. So issue 257 was written by Mike Barr and Jim Shooter. 258 was by Chris Claremont and David Michelini. 259, which we covered, which is the Doc Ock issue, that one was written by Jim Shooter and David Michelini. 260, which we covered, that was the one that was written and drawn by Al Milgrom, where Cap goes to the prison. And then 261 is where we have J.M. DeMatteis. So there's a series here of one-shots. And in fact, when we had J.M. DeMatteis on the show, he talked about this was just supposed to be a 4-part gig for him. And then we had like Michael Kraft came on and did that 2-parter, and then they brought J.M. DeMatteis back. And anyway, so then, he had a nice long run on there. But so this has the impression of being a fill-in, and also the fact there was these 3 inkers on there seems to me that it was kind of like a rush job.
Yeah, I think that's a good forensic analysis right there, Rick.
Colorist Bob Sharon, as he was for every other comic in Marvel these days. Letterer Jim Novak and editor Jim Salicrup. I'd read the solicitation to you, Bob, but I can't find one.
Oh, how I look forward to those.
Well, you know what I look forward to? I look forward to when you describe the cover to the listeners.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rick, because it's an interesting cover. It looks like the interior of a castle. Could be the castle at Greymoor, and we are seeing it moments after Cap has burst through a big wood and iron door into the interior of the castle, and he has entered in. And outside, you can see a sort of the windswept lawn, and he is standing inside that front door on what looks to be a rough-hewn stone floor. The walls look to be, certainly dark. They could be, stone or wood, but probably stone. It's a castle. And you see nothing behind him outside except an eerie yellow glow of probably moonlight. And and he looks like he's ready to throw down. He has got his fighting stance on with his shield in his left hand and his right hand clenched into a fist. But the interesting thing about this, that would be interesting enough, but above the doorway are 2 very eerie looking eyes carved into the wall of the castle. So it has the appearance of almost like a jack-o'-lantern face behind Cap. And he's got his teeth gritted, and he is ready to face down whatever is in his way.
Yeah, nicely done. And the art is by Marie Severin. And she is a legendary artist by this time, because she had also worked in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And just covers alone, I think she's done like 250 covers. And so for this, gosh, how many Captain America covers did she do? She's probably, I'm pulling it up now and I'm looking, and it looks like she's probably done, prior to this one, 9 covers that she had done from 1969 to 1970. So in just that short period of time, and actually less than a year, she did 9 covers.
Wow.
And then she also did the cover to Captain America Annual #1. So she's no stranger to Captain America. So kind of cool. And this is also, unfortunately, her last cover of Captain America.
Huh. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yep.
Rick, are you proceeding into the story? Because I got to stop you if you are.
Well, I was just going to remind people who maybe didn't listen to last episode that this is kind of like a sequel. So last episode, 158, we covered Tales of Suspense 69 through 71, and which was a story in 1965. And I apologize if it took a while. I think there were a lot of tangents. It's a very long episode. In fact, I'm still currently editing it. It's taking so long, but anyway, So if you haven't listened to last episode, I highly recommend you check it out, so that today's episode has a little bit more context.
Yeah.
What did you want to say,
Good call.
Bob?
Well, Rick, I don't normally bring up the ads, but on the interior front cover of this issue is an ad for the Johnson Smith Company. Now,
Hold on, Bob. I got my issue right here. I'm
All
opening
right.
it up.
I'm sure you remember these from when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Ways to get a kid to spend his allowance or newspaper run money
on novelties. These are
on
all look like
novelty items.
novelties.
Yeah, things you never knew existed is the tagline for the Johnson Smith Company. Been in business since 1914, and they have all kinds of items in this full page ad for sale. Any of them that jump out to you, Rick?
I totally wanted the X-ray vision glasses.
Oh, you know those were going to work.
Yeah. How many of those
those
bought those and then went onto the school bus and just looked at girls' dresses?
Right. Yes, exactly. There's one up here that when I saw, I immediately thought of you, and it was the Wack Jack Tension Reliever. Did you notice that one? The Wack Jack. I mean, it's one of the more expensive items in this catalog. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, it seems so appealing for a lot of reasons for a young juvenile male that might
who doesn't need a Wack Jack tension reliever?
Yeah. And I got to tell you now, my tastes are a little more refined than they were back when I was in 8th grade, but I am really drawn to the Hercules wristband for $1.65. And here's the description. Hercules. It gives rugged masculine appearance, double strap for quote, He-Man unquote look. Get 2, 1 for each arm, genuine leather. Yeah. I really think I could be sporting the Hercules wristbands these days and really pull it off. So
totally. I want to go back to the Wack Jack tension reliever, Bob. I love how the diagram on there is a fist making a motion.
Right. It's an up and down motion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I got news for you, Johnson Smith Company. I don't need to pay $3.95 for that.
Right. Yeah. You know what? It could almost be listed in the item directly to the left of it. The 101 things for free booklet that you have to pay $1.25 for. So I got my own Wack Jack tension reliever, and it's 100% free.
It's right.
So, all right. Anyway, I just wanted to draw attention to these ads because I do remember them as a kid.
I know.
We don't talk about them enough.
We don't talk about the ads enough, and that's because usually I'm on my Marvel Unlimited because I don't want to damage the comics. But I actually did pull out my issue copy of this. The other thing too, Bob, 50 cents. 50 cents got this for you back in 1981. Nowadays, according to the comic book price guide, you know what a near mint issue goes for in the guide?
51 cents.
No, $8.
$8.
I know. I'm like, you're totally going to find this in the dollar box. Come on.
I do think so.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's holding on to this and trying to sell it individually online. Like,
waiting for the first appearance of Greymoor Castle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to get this graded. Right. But we care, listeners. That's why we're bringing it to you. No other place ever, anywhere are you going to get Captain America 256 covered panel by panel.
You're right.
All right. So let's get to the opening panel, or opening splash page, I should say. And Bob, you already said what the title is, but go ahead, say it again.
Oh, yes. The Ghosts of Greymoor Castle. And
it's a really cool splash page. And you said it so well before that Gene Colan is known for conveying kind of an atmosphere and feeling, right?
Yeah.
He's really good at that. And quite frankly, this splash page does it. There's a old dilapidated castle in the background, and Captain America in full uniform, holding his shield by the straps, is standing in a field in front of it, and it's nighttime. There is a full moon, of course. I would love for an artist just to draw, I don't know, a 3/4 moon sometime.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No, you're right. A new moon. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Come on. And in front of the moon is a dead trees, branches, bare branches, and then there's some clouds, even though it's dark out, and you see bats flying around, and the grass is pretty long. There's leaves flying, and you see some breeze going by. It's a very moody, eerie setting. Memories. They have taken the man called Captain America away from his homeland, away from the life and identity he's been trying to forge for Steve Rogers, the man beneath the mask, and brought him here to England's windswept North Country for an encounter with his past. And then we see Cap's thought bubble. Greymoor Castle. Despite the centuries, the ravages of war, it still stands, still waits. Let me turn to the next page. Captain America is lost in introspection as he forges through the tall grass towards the vast and gloomy pile lying illuminated by the moon's cold orb. I left the States in a hurry, dropping everything, including a promising relationship with a certain young lady. Who's that lady, Bob?
Was that Bernie?
It was. When I received a telegram from Falsworth Manor. I thought at first it was from Jacqueline Falsworth, now Lady Crichton, my one-time partner Spitfire back in our Invaders days, but it had been sent by her ailing father, the original Union Jack. The old man came out of retirement to help me combat the vampiric menace of barren blood. We won, but it cost Lord Falworth his life. That's done. Now I should be getting home, but I couldn't leave England without paying a visit to these ancient ruins. And Bob, what is he referring to about barren blood?
Yeah, that was in issues 253 and 254, Rick.
That's right. And we covered those in episode 119. So if anybody wants to hear really bad English accents by yours truly, because I had to do all different types of ages, all different, male, female, different
dialects of
dialects. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was quite embarrassing. But anyway, that was issues 253, 254. And so he says to visit these ancient ruins, the scene of one of Captain America and Bucky's greatest battles. Memories. And then we see like decades flying by, 1980, 1950, 1940. I guess they figured 60 and 70 wasn't worth doing.
Yes, just jump right over those.
Blah, blah, blah. I was with a company of Rangers training hard at an encampment near Dover. Rogers, you gold brick. Get the lead out. Yes, sir, Sarge, sir. Steve, you're back. Howdy, Mr. Bucky Barnes. How's our rollicking regimental mascot today? Have you heard the news about the big drive? So that's why the Sarge has been marching the socks off us all week. Will I get to go this time, Steve? Not a chance. You know a teenage mascot can't go into combat with us. But if I'm good enough to fight as Captain America's partner, why can't I? That's our secret, son. And I make the decisions for this team. That was kind of an abbreviated version of what happened.
Sure was, yeah.
The doors open, crashed off its hinges just as when I broke into. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Bucky had more guts than most men twice his age. He was disappointed at not going into combat with the Rangers, but that left someone behind to handle things at the undermanned base when, and there's a loud explosion, Bob.
Boom!
An explosion. Looks like sabotage. The base is on fire. The kid was eager for action, stepping behind the barracks. He changed one uniform to another. Bucky Barnes' regimental mascot vanished, to be replaced by the brave young Bucky, Captain America's partner. But the sabotage of the base was part of a carefully conceived Nazi trap, and Bucky charged right into it. Where's Captain America? We wanted both he and his verdammt partner. We will have settled for the boy and use him to lure Captain America to his doom. the Nazis sped off, taking Bucky with them. And you know, the car is moving. You know why, Bob? All the
Because there's
exhaust.
lots of exhaust coming out
Yeah.
the back. Yeah.
All right, Bob. I encourage everybody to break out their 256 and go to this page and look at this panel, because I saw this panel and it totally reminded me of a video game that I used to play the heck out of in an arcade.
Really?
Did you ever play Spy Hunter?
Oh, I don't think I ever played that.
It was a driving game, but it was from the top looking down.
Okay.
And it was, you were driving like a James Bond car, and it had all these different things that you could do. It had like a machine gun in the front. It had smoke behind it. It had oil slick behind it. You could fire a missile, but you had to go and pick up these weapons along the way. And then there was all these different bad cars that were coming after you. Some of them had spikes on their wheels to pop your tire. And then a car that looked just like this one was like the muscle car. It would just like hit you off the road. And the smoke screen behind it was one of the things that you could do, you know, on your thing. You'd like with your thumb, you'd hit smoke screen, and it'd be like, you know, that would come out and make all the cars behind you like fall off. It was a really cool car.
I don't remember ever playing that.
And it had, I think it had like green onions, which was a theme. Like if you heard it, I think it was like said JT Booker band or whatever, but it was like do dum 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 dum. You know that song?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that was the song to Spy Hunter.
Wow.
And so you were there, and like they had the spy music going on, and it was really cool. Yeah. But anyway, this is totally that villain car, and then it has like a little smoke behind it.
All right. I never played it. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm curious if any of our listeners are familiar with Spy Hunter and played it as a kid.
You know, it's cool. There is a arcade near where I live. It's called Yestercades. And you pay by the hour.
Yeah.
And so you just go up to any game and play whatever game you want. You just pay by the hour.
Oh my!
And it's got all the classic video games. It's got air hockey. It's got, you know, skee ball.
Yeah.
It's got a pool table, and it plays 80s music. And it's it's BYOB.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You just bring your cooler, and then for younger kids, like you can go and sit in beanbag chairs and play you know, Wii and all the different games out there, all the systems.
Cool. That is cool.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
And they have a Spy Hunter there, and I play the heck out of that.
That is cool. Wow.
All right. So then Cap's going into the castle, and he's still lost in thought, bringing him here to Greymoor Castle, where he was used to bait a trap conceived by my arch enemy, Hitler's master agent, the Red Skull, a trap into which I had to walk, or Bucky would die. Memories guide Captain America down the dark and dusty hallway. Memory goes before him up the ancient creaking staircase, past burnt, blackened portraits, reminders of Greymoor's once honorable heritage. And so, yeah, he's looking at, you know, these old murals and paintings, but of course everything is, as it's saying, burn blackened, right, because of the fire that happened there.
Right.
And he's going past I guess armor, right?
A suit of armor. Yeah.
Yeah, suit of armor, and the holding a mace, a little with a club with little spikes on it. And it's a memory illuminating the past, which keeps Captain America from sensing the perils of the present. Bob, the suit of armor just moved.
Oh my gosh, it did. And the mace in its hand is moving as well.
Yeah. If there are ghosts at Greymoor Castle, this is surely one. And it's following Cap up the stairs, the aforementioned squeaky stairs.
Yes. The quiet suit of medieval armor is
Yes.
following him stealthily up the stairs.
The squeaky stairs.
The squeaky stairs, yes.
Yeah. That Cap's just la 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 la. But the apparition of soundless steel hangs back as Captain America ascends to a corridor whose charred roof beams have opened gaping holes to the night, the elements, and the memory-jarring moonlight. And he sees two more paintings. Celia Rawlings and her brother, Cedric, Lord of Greymoor, scientist and a man who almost handed his country over to the Nazis. Memories. Rawlings was an embittered man, and the Red Skull used his twisted genius to plot England's downfall. The first part of the Skull's plan involved eliminating Bucky and me. Now, remove the lead-lined cover and expose them to the deadly radiation emanating from the pit below. Rawlings had discovered something he called Z-rays, and he intended to use them to prove his worth to his Nazi masters, for it seemed only they were willing to give him the recognition he craved. Out of the way, all of you! I shall now intensify the radiation. You see, Major Uberhart, what I did to these two plastic figurines, I can do also to the real Captain America and Bucky. The Red Skull will be pleased, Dr. Rawlings. The rays reduced atoms in size. The Nazis only needed Rawlings' Z-rays to condense rocket fuel in order to give greater range and striking power to a mighty V-2 rocket they'd have Rawlings build inside one of Greymoor's ancient turrets. Bucky, I, and Rawlings' sister, who has defied the Nazis, were to be placed inside it when it was launched at number 10 Downing Street, Winston Churchill's home. Boy, they really love talking about that.
Yeah.
Celia Rawlings, appalled by her brother's treachery, created a diversion, allowing Bucky and I to tackle the Nazis. But Celia was shot. Horrified, Cedric repented, and the V-2 was retargeted to strike at the Nazi forces, pinning down my unit of Rangers and occupied friends. I thought the launch had decimated Greymoor, but only part of the castle was destroyed. Eh? That glow from beneath that door. Is someone here besides me? It sure did look like the castle was destroyed.
It really did.
Tales of Suspense 71.
Yeah, it looked like a catastrophic loss to the castle.
And then, Cap is wondering, is someone here besides me? Someone or something? And sure enough, that suit of armor is coming at him with the mace. And raising its arm to strike, the steel-shod ghost proves itself possessed of rusty joints. And it makes a noise, Bob. What in blazes? Die, demon! You haunt me no longer. Memory is banished. Instinct comes to the fore. Captain America takes the blow on his far-famed shield. Spling! It holds, as it has always held. A pity that rotted oak door against which Cap is driven back by the force of the blow does not prove equally reliable. And so we turn the page, Bob. Wow. That's quite the splash page.
It really is. There's an amazing amount of perspective going on here.
Well, don't leave the listeners in a lurch, Bob.
Yeah. So I mean, he bursts through this weakened oak door, and beyond the door is that pit of radiation, that Z radiation that we learned about in the beginning, and we saw in more detail in Tales of Suspense 69 to 71. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, hanging from the roof above this pit, which it appears that Cap is falling toward,
mm-hmm.
are a couple ropes.
Fortunately.
Indeed.
And that staircase on the other side of the door has long since crumbled to dust, and that some sinister hand has seen fit to remove the leaden cover from the pit containing the still deadly Z-rays. Next page. Falling. Fortunately, Captain America and Bucky had effected their escape from Greymoor Castle before Rawlings had the chance to expose them to his mass-shrinking Z-rays. Still, in his mind's eye, Cap has long envisioned that perilous pit as described to him by agents of the OSS. What the heck is that, Bob?
That's the OSS, Rick, the Office of Special Services. Later, after World War II, changed to the Central Intelligence Agency,
Also known as the CIA.
also known as the CIA or the CIA. Nobody calls it that. Yeah.
No?
No.
Chaya.
Chaya.
And it's an interesting perspective of he's twisting his body as he's falling, putting his shield out. But it's certainly a hard, turn of his body. But they said it had been sealed. Obviously, it's been reopened, and recently, judging from the dust disturbed by the removal of the leaden lid. Time to stop analyzing and start acting, unless I want to end up as small as Ant-Man, permanently. With the dexterity born of decades of practice, Captain America angles his fall so that his impervious shield safeguards him from the shrinking rays. And then he grabs the rope behind him, Bob, without even looking. Even as his gauntleted hand flashes out, and with fingers of steel, grasp a lifeline dangling down from above. I'm wondering, Bob, with his fingers of steel, if Cap needs a Wack Jack Tension Reliever.
That could be, could prove dangerous, actually.
You men could have caught it, snaking as it seemingly out of reach. Fewer still could have held on. Adds a whole nother element, doesn't it, Bob?
It does. It certainly does. Fingers of steel.
But he is Captain America, the living legend of World War II, the red, white, and blue Avenger, the man few men do not dream of being. Unfortunately, he is also human. Is that unfortunate? I don't think so.
No, I don't. It does have its own limitations, however.
That's true. Thus, though he avoids plunging into the perilous pit, say that 5 times fast, Bob. He cannot stop himself from striking the turret wall with bone-jarring force. It looks like he hits the back of his head. Captain America falls, consciousness slipping away from him, even as his armored attacker leaps into space towards the very line that saved Cap's life. Interesting. So the Cap falls to like a lower level, and then this armored knight jumps onto the rope to go down to him. Down the hempen strand, the creaking figure climbs, hand over metal encased hand. He must be really strong, right? Because that armor's got how much do you think that armor weighs?
Yeah, armor's got to weigh 150 pounds, if not more.
More, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Well, yeah.
When you were in the Marines, what's the heaviest backpack you ever had to carry?
I don't know. It'd be like 50, 60 pound pack, and you'd have your full canteens and your weapon, and then you might have to carry something else. Depend. I mean, certainly for training, one thing, right? For real life, different thing. But whether you're carrying a base plate to a mortar or a mortar tube or supplies or something that you would pass off every now and again but generally a 50, 60 pound pack would probably be typical.
Did you ever have to carry a person?
In actual real world circumstances? No.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, no.
And I'm sure you practiced it, right?
Yeah, we trained the hell out of that. Right. Yeah. Fireman's carry. In fact, it's part of the physical fitness test for the Marines, the combat fitness test, where you got to fireman carry somebody, I can't remember what the distance was, but yeah, that's part of the test.
And then the armored figure speaks. You are not a demon, but a creature of flesh and blood. You are, heaven help me, I know who you are. Uttering that enigmatic announcement, the armored anachronism carries the fallen Avenger from the chamber. Be he knight or knave, Captain America is in his power. Bob, you know what a knave is?
Well, I'm assuming it's the I can't remember exactly, but is it the guy that takes care of the knight's equipment?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, brings it out to him, helps him get dressed, puts him on the horse, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember why that difference is the difference between that and a squire.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. I'll have to go
Oh.
back and watch that. What was that Heath Ledger movie with?
My wife loves that movie.
Yeah, right. It's a great movie
because it's got like modern rock in it.
Right. Yeah. It's a fun movie. Fun movie.
Memory returns, and with it, the droning of a strangely familiar voice. Thank the heavens, you are all right. You are real, aren't you? Of course you are. Your shield rang as of old when I struck it with my mace. You were hurt when you struck the wall. Your body had weight when I bore you through Greymoor's twisting corridors to this chamber. Here, have some mulled wine. It will warm you against the castle's chill. Go on, drink it. You can. You must. And describe the scenery here, Bob. Describe this scene.
This is a great. It's almost an entire page, right, with two minor cutout panels. But Cap is sitting in an old. It looks like it's a very ornately carved chair. I mean, it looks very throne-like, right? And you can see that there's a bit of a sheet where it has been pulled back over this chair, exposing it for Cap to be seated. And then we're in a very large room with very ornately carved walls. There's one of those great fireplaces with a fire roaring in it. The rest of the furniture is still covered with sheets. And Cap is sitting in this chair with a golden goblet in his hand raised, and the knight stands before him. It's a really great page. I mean, if you like Gene Colan, you like that atmospheric sort of style. I mean, this will really ring your bell.
I agree, 100%. And so Cap's holding that goblet in a relaxed pose. And I love how his left hand is just, relaxed, hanging over, his fingers just very loose.
Right. Yeah.
You could see there's no tenseness about him.
Right.
He's not at all, anxious or in fear.
Mm-hmm.
First you attack me, then you carry me to safety, and now you want me to prove something to you by drinking your wine? What? I must be sure that you're not a ghost. Captain America starts, and then, as much to steady his own nerves as to satisfy his strange host, drinks deep of the spiced wine. Done. No ghost could drink so deeply. You are real, then. Not one of them. But how can it be? And he takes off his helmet. 4 decades have come and gone since I last set eyes on you. I have lived 100 lifetimes since then. Yet you seem to not have aged at all. That is why I mistook you for one of them. The ones who come to Greymoor every night. Celia and Major Uberhardt and the Red Skull. They have never changed with the years either. They still accuse me, still call me traitor. You're Cedric Rawlings. But good Lord, man, your face. And he points in his face.
It's harsh. Yeah, way to be subtle, Cap.
I'm going to do that next podcast. Right. I'm going to point at you. Dear Lord, man, your face. And Rawlings kind of sits back into a chair, which is covered with a white sheet, holding his helmet. Burned in the fire, caused when we launched my V2 rocket. I've relived that moment over and over since 1941. The ghosts never let me forget. It's your own conscience that's troubling you, Rawlings. The memory that you betrayed your country and brought about your sister's death. That is what I thought too, Captain America. But there are other ghosts here, older than the nightmares of my own memory. They come in the night, shuffle through these ancient halls, light forgotten, antechambers, looking, always looking. Looking? Looking for what, Rawlings? And then there's a noise.
Crash!
Eh? And Cap turns his head to look. You see, I'm not crazy. There are others stalking this ancient pile tonight besides we two. Others. The ghosts of Greymoor Castle. Captain America does not disbelieve the raving old man, and he takes off and he runs towards the noise. For did he not, less than a fortnight past, sever the head from a bloodlusting creature of the night with the edge of his star-spangled shield? No, Captain America does not doubt that. If this world can produce vampires, it can also house ghosts. It is just that he would prefer to find a more scientific origin for this disturbance than has brought him running before he accepts the supernatural. And where does he run into, Bob? How would you describe that?
Well, it is, appears to be a gargoyle, Rick, of some sort that has come to life.
Nothing. But Greymoor is old, fire and weather damaged. Maybe that crash was just a ceiling beam caving in, or a sagging wall finally giving up the... There is a loud noise, Bob. No. Any place as old as this is bound to make odd noises. It's Cedric Rawlings' ravings that have me looking for spirits and creaking floorboards. But things start to fall onto him, like little rocks start to, bounce off his shoulder. And yet Cedric Rawlings has spent a lifetime at Greymoor Castle. Perhaps it would be best if Captain America paid heed to the old man's warnings. And then what do we see, Bob?
There it is. It's that gargoyle-like creature that was perched up above on one of the walls has finally broken free. That explains why all those rocks were falling down on Cap's back. And it comes crashing down on top of Cap.
That stone gargoyle, shoved from its niche, toppling toward me. Weighing a ton or more, the sinister stone masonry is nevertheless deflected by the lightning-like precision with which Captain America positions his shield. I like the way that's written.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way a lot of this is written. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's poetry, but
it is poetic.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Mantlo's he definitely has a style to him that is very fluid and very descriptive. And certainly, he likes alliteration, right? So,
right. Yeah.
I've enjoyed this.
Well, he's making good use of the language, which I think is important, right? I mean, we've looked at, we've talked about it. We've talked about it with Tom Brevoort. We've talked about the importance of comics as a medium for teaching the English language, for teaching reading to young people. Mm-hmm. And so he's maximizing that. You could read Shakespeare, or you could read something like this, which, he's using the language in a very similar sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Now, do you believe me? There are ghosts here, and they want you to go. Look up at the battlements, Rawlings. There's someone up there who wants me to leave Greymoor, all right. But I'd be willing to bet that he's alive as you or I. But who? That's what I intend to find out. You stay here while I'll see if a ghost can be taken in for attempted murder. Leaping to the ancient drapes, Captain America uses them to climb through the collapsed ceiling to the battlements above, leaving in his wake a slightly senile Cedric Rawlings, who cannot help but wonder whether this perpetually youthful hero is immortal. Locked away inside Greymoor, alone with his guilt, Rawlings never learned that years spent in suspended animation kept Captain America from aging as other men. Finally, Cap reaches the narrow footpath atop one of Greymoor's few surviving walls. I'm going to say this. I think I think Mantlo is doing a good job of making up for the fact that Colan has been drawing this castle a lot more, not demolished, right? It's
Right.
old, it's
Yeah.
decrepit, but it's
Yeah.
not been something blown up. And
Right.
this is not the first time that Mantlo has put in here something to overcome that. Like he says,
Right.
one of Greymoor's few surviving walls.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He's trying to bridge that gap between what we saw in Tales of Suspense 71
Mhm.
and what we're seeing here.
Yeah, nicely done. But I heard the swishing of the metal spheres he hurled at me as they sliced through the air in time to bring up my shield. And it makes a noise when it hits the shield, Bob.
I can't. Stack. What is that? Stack. I don't know what stack is.
Well, it's a noise apparently these discs are making on his shield.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, for a minute there, you sounded like the aliens from
Mars invades, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And Cap grimaces and says, "Acid." The lethal liquid drips harmlessly off of Cap's impervious shield. If I'd been just a fraction of a second slower, but that should set to rest any lingering doubts about my foe being of supernatural origin. Ghosts don't need to hurl acid, and something that can't be caught doesn't need to flee. This corridor ends in a turret stairway. If I go down it, I may run into my ghost lying in wait with more nasty surprises. So I'll cut him off by taking the express elevator. And when he says express elevator, Bob, he means jumping off the side.
Yeah, that's not the one I use.
No. The lightning flash makes things easier. With the sure-footedness of a cat, Captain America makes the most of the brilliant bursts of elemental fury to race along from beam to burn blackened beam, avoiding gaping holes which could plummet him through the roof to the dizzy depths below, until he chooses the time and place of his descent. What? The accursed Avenger in front of me? How? A combination of two ingredients called strategy and skill, friend. You struck at me twice from the shadows tonight, mister, and I want to know why. What? The accursed Avenger in front of me? How? A combination of two ingredients called strategy and skill, friend. You struck at me twice from the shadows tonight, mister, and I want to know why. You'll get nothing from me save a swift death, shielded slinger. A fate you escaped by one of the merest happenstances when we fought. You, the demon druid. How would you describe the demon druid, Bob?
He is tough to describe, Rick.
That's why I gave him to you.
He's got a very odd purple costume on. It's sort of a combination cloak and bodysuit, but he's got a very sort of bovine look to him. Would that be going too far to say that?
No, because he does have steer kind of quality.
Right. I mean, he's also like very big. I mean, his musculature in his arms and his legs are oversized, but not in a way that like conveys athleticism. He more conveys sort of like almost like, to me anyway, looking at him, it's like a steer standing up that has gained sort of the locomotion of a human being. And he's got no neck that is discernible, right? He's got this sort of this cowl that comes over and obscures his eyes and upper head. And then he's got, as you pointed out, this very long handlebar, almost steer-like horn appendage fastened to his forehead, with a little device on at the center of it. And I'm not sure if it's a fox or a cat or something, but it's some sort of creature. And then on his torso, there are 4 spheres arranged in a pattern of a square. And so he's a very odd looking character. I'm not sure how the costume works to accentuate his powers in any way. but he's certainly unique.
Indeed. And then when he says, when last we fought, when was that, Bob?
I believe that was back in Captain America 188 for the Druid's defeat and escape.
So Cap refers to him as the Demon Druid. So I was like, who the heck is the Demon Druid? I remember kind of seeing him
There's a
once
couple
before.
druids, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's Dr. Druid. Dr.
Yeah.
Druid, wasn't he on the Avengers, right?
Right. And he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while.
That was a different Druid.
Was that a different Druid? Yeah. I remember I was going to bring up when we talked about some one and done characters. That was one of the characters I looked at. Turned out he wasn't one and done.
So he says Demon Druid. So I'm like, who is this guy? So I'm trying to look up Demon Druid. There is no Demon Druid. There is this character. His name is Dreadmund, the Druid. And it's Drdmund, Dreadmund the Druid. Now, Dreadmund Cromwell is his name, and he is a would-be sorcerer. And his first appearance was in Strange Tales 144, going up against Doctor Strange. So he was in 144 and 145. So that was back in 1966. Then, as you know, the editor here did point out, he was in Captain America 187, 188. That was in 1975. Now he appears here in 256. So he's in 1966, 2 issues, 1975, 2 issues, 1981, 1 issue. I have a theory on that, which I'll get to in a moment. That's not how I remember it. You were so scared you suffered an emotional collapse even before I beat you. Liar, you were beaten, broken by the psychological assault of my Machiavellian murder maze. Only the fortuitous arrival of S.H.I.E.L.D. saved you from total annihilation. And then he throws more discs at him. You're living in a fantasy world, Druid. S.H.I.E.L.D. merely helped mop up. You and your cowed cutthroats were an insipid squad of stumblebums that I'd ever seen. As a matter of fact, now that I recall scanning your S.H.I.E.L.D. file, you've never been anything but a failure, for all your trappings of ancient occultism merged with modern science. Now, those discs, they went past Cap because he ducked them. Where did they go, Bob?
They appear to have shattered into the wall, or punctured into the wall, and something appears to be leaking out.
And the tapestry that was on the wall has caught fire.
Yes.
Curse you, Captain America. I'll not let you mock me with my own inadequacy. You admit it. That's one for the books. And now you forsake your alchemical bag of murderous tricks for a more direct approach. And what's that direct approach he's doing?
He just swung a gigantic halberd, barely missing Cap, who sort of leans back and misses the intended blow.
And it goes shunk,
as halberds often do.
Eh? That hollow sound when the druid's axe struck a particular stone in the wall. No time to dwell on that now. I'll destroy you any way I have to, Avenger. I spent months since my escape haunted by my constant failure. That's why I came here. Old druid lore has it that there's a secret hidden at Greymoor Castle, an ancient source of arcane alchemical knowledge that could make me, let me guess, the mightiest mortal on the face of the earth. Sorry, Druid. There's a certain green-skinned Goliath who has a patent on that one for years. And as the menaces go, you're nowhere near being in the Hulk's League. And he takes the halberd out of his hand and he flips him. And then he tosses the halberd. So why don't you just give up and save us both a lot of wasted energy? But no, he throws more discs at him. Never. Not while I still possess a single one of my alchemical eggs. The deadly ovoids cleave the air, shattering with the seemingly impotent seething over the stonework at Captain America's feet. And they make a noise, Bob.
Like shuck, chuck.
Yeah, and that hiss you hear is the acid that's coming out, and it's dissolving the stone underneath him. You're through, Druid. You missed what? the floor. And it collapses underneath him. It's crumbling away, and waiting there beneath me, the deadly Z-ray pit. But he grabs onto the edge just in the nick of time. And there's just a hand there, his one lone right hand. And Druid goes and he picks up the halberd as he walks towards Cap. But even as Captain America claws for a handhold, my powers are insignificant, Captain America. Pitiable, laughable, hardly what you would call superpowers at all. I came to Greymoor to rectify that, to find the old Druid book and be reborn. How utterly fitting that my ascension to supreme power should coincide with your downfall. And he holds the axe up above his head, and his eyes look maniacal, Bob. No, I won't let Captain America die at Greymoor. I can't live with any more ghosts. Who? Rawlings. And sure enough, Rawlings in his armor dives at Druid and pushes them over the edge. The old man, I've forgotten about him. And now he's hurtling us both over into the pit. And Cap thinks he must have been watching, thought me helpless to avoid the Druid's axe, and decided his conscience wouldn't let him live in peace if his Z-rays destroyed me. But I was about to backflip out. Now I've got to reposition myself and try to save either Rawlings or the Druid. There really is no time for choosing. Cedric Rawlings is nearer to Captain America's outstretched hand, and thus it is he who is saved. As for the demon Druid, no, help me, please. I can't die, not like this. It's so useless. And he dissolves into the pit. Whether he shrinks out of existence before he hits bottom will forever be a subject of conjecture. The Druid shrunk out of sight, or what did he mean, Captain America, about a secret hidden at Greymoor Castle? You tell me. How old is Greymoor, Rawlings? Centuries. This hall in particular was said to have been built by the Romans over an ancient Druid burial ground. The stones themselves come from demolished Druid temples. And it was in this hall that the demon Druid concentrated his search, keeping you out by preying on your dread of ghosts. But I heard a hollow sound when attacking me. The Druid's axe struck a certain stone. So Cap uses his shield back in that area, and it makes a noise, Bob. That stone. A hidden cache in the wall. I never suspected. The Druid did, probably learning of it from ages-old texts he's gotten his hands on. The ancient Druids were a powerfully mystic sect, reputedly steeped in arcane alchemical lore. If this tomb holds the secrets to their power, then it's a good thing it didn't fall into the hands of their self-styled ancestor. And what does he find there, Bob? Behind the wall.
It's an old book of some sort, Rick.
There's more than one.
Indeed, there's a cache of books.
Yeah. Yes, he would have used it only for evil, but perhaps I could fathom its secrets and, by doing good, exercise from my mind the spirits of all those I've wronged. The book is your property, Rawlings. You take it, Captain. Far away. To America. I must find some other way to free myself from my ghosts. I have a friend, a sister avenger. Perhaps the Scarlet Witch can decipher these ancient ruins. Perhaps, but that is a tale for another time and another place. Next, would you believe the Incredible Hulk? Dun, dun, dun.
What?
All right, Bob, what'd you think?
Hey, fun story. Nice to see Cedric doing some good for a change. He didn't have much of a send-off in Tales of Suspense 71, but he came through this time in a pinch.
He did. What'd you think of this story?
Yeah, it's a good bookend to the original tale. A nice follow up. Demon Druid's not particularly compelling as a villain. Definitely, as you pointed out in your forensic analysis, it was definitely wedged in here as a filler. But in that sense, even as a filler story, it was serviceable, right? It did the job. And I always enjoy when authors go back and plumb an earlier story and try to round it out in some way, revisit the characters, maybe, provide a sequel to the original tale. And I think in this case, it's kind of cool. I like that. And I like the retelling in the early pages of this book of what happened in the original story. They illustrated it in a similar way and used the dialogue, but it was still a little bit different in some cases. And so I don't know. I like the story. I thought it was great. And as you pointed out, Bill Mantlo's writing was very poetic. Great use of the English language. And whether the kids knew it or not at the time, they were learning new words that they could use to impress their dates. So,
yeah. And I would also add to what you said about Bill Mantlo and about Gene Colan. I think, this being, he, as I said before, he hadn't been on Captain America in quite some time. Him to come back and do this one issue, and it was perfect for him because of his moodiness and stylishness, and it really fit the story. And really, can you see? I don't know, Ron Lim. I love Ron Lim.
Yeah.
But can you see him doing this story the same justice that Gene Colan could?
Right.
Or I don't know, Steve Epting. These are all good Captain America artists, but Gene Colan seems to be the perfect one for this.
Agreed. Yeah. That moodiness, that atmospheric nature of his pencils definitely serviced the story quite well.
So going back to what you just said about, you like when writers go in and farm something and then create a sequel. So in my mind, Bill Mantlo, he found this druid character that had, again, 2 issues in 1966, 2 issues in 1975. He was like, I'm going to find a character I can kill. Right? I'm going to find a character that no one would care if they're gone. Right? But it is somebody who had dealt with Captain America in the past and would make for a more interesting story than, say, a complete stranger going up against Captain America. So that, to me, is why Bill Mantlo picked Druid.
All right.
Now, he comes back. Guess when he comes back, Bob?
When does he come back?
In the Man and Wolf story.
Really?
Cap Wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's brought back by Mark Grunwald 11 years later. So in 1992, for the Man and Wolf story, that 6-part story.
Yeah.
The Dreadmond the Druid is a character. So Mark goes and does the same thing. And he goes, oh, well, we didn't really see him die.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're going to do Man and Wolf, right? When we, it might be one of those long tail, we'll do 1 issue every month type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll get back to that. But there you go. There's the cycle continues.
The cycle continues. I like that. It's fair enough. He got rid of Druid, but as you point out, there is rarely ever a definitive end to a character.
All right, Bob, you go first. What?
Oh,
yeah, I know. What is your favorite panel?
My favorite panel. I think I'm gonna have to go, Rick, with Captain America sitting on that throne having
that was
a
mine.
beverage. Was it really?
It totally was. Yeah.
Oh, well,
I regretted the fact that your timing was to go first because I knew you would steal it from me, especially after you commented on it and I asked you to describe the page and you just went on and on. At that point, I went,
yeah.
I'm not going to. He's going to take it from me, and
rightfully
rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Two great minds such as ours can appreciate the same page, maybe even for different reasons, but we're drawn to it. Yeah, it's just a wonderful, wonderful page, with just an excruciating amount of care to detail, in the walls, in the furniture, and even in Cap, as you said, with that one hand, his left hand just resting on the arm of the chair, showing zero tension. So a lot to like about that particular page. So what's your backup?
I say it for everything, all the reasons you say it.
Yeah.
I agree. And then I would add to that, it's also something I don't recall ever seeing image of Cap before or since. And, of him sitting in a throne, holding a goblet, in this situation, you know what I mean? I mean, just like, it just, yeah.
It makes me want to like go have a cup of mulled wine and just relax in my
spiced
recliner.
wine too, right?
Yeah, my spiced mulled wine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's something interesting. So my grandfather, who I never met, he died before I was born. My dad's dad, he was a coal miner and he died of black lung, but he prior to that, he was a merchant marine. And he was from Austria and came over on the boat, to America. But at one point his job was a merchant marine. And so my dad had a fishing boat and I was a first mate on my dad's boat for 8 years. And so, on a boat, do you know the difference between left and right?
Port and starboard?
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
And as a kid, it was hard for me to remember which one was port and which one was starboard.
Yeah.
So my dad said how he was taught to remember by his father, who was a merchant marine, who worked on a boat, and he was the wine steward. Okay. And so he would go in, room to room, would you like any wine? And then towards the end of the night, someone would say, well, what kind of wine do you have?
Yeah.
And he would say, all I have is port is left. And because it's not a popular wine, right? Not. So it's like it's the one that's left. So he would say, all I have is port is left.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But anyway, port is left was the terminology.
Yeah.
So that's how I remembered the difference between port and starboard.
All right.
But anyway, yeah. So we got mulled spice wine and port wine.
Yeah, I have drunk a lot of port wine in my life. So
really, I'm not a big fan.
Well, I'm not either, but it is traditional in the naval services to drink port wine at ceremonial events, and so you traditionally toast with port for the naval history of it all. So. I think it comes from a city. Is it a city in Portugal? Porto?
I don't know.
I think so. If I'm not mistaken. I only know that because we're planning a trip to Portugal, and that's one of the places we're going to visit is Porto. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Did we get to your favorite panel?
No, because you took it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I'm going to go with page 7, the big splash of Cap falling into the pit through the door.
Oh yeah.
It's a really interesting layout, and also it's really interesting in how the perspective of Cap falling.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone just looked at this panel, you really wouldn't know which way's up, which way's what's happening. Right. You know what I mean? So it's interesting in how he drew it. And you certainly never see Cap in this, his body twisting in this way. So on the fly, I'm going to go with that's my favorite panel.
Well, it's interesting you say that was my backup for many of the reasons you said. I like the perspective. I like the fact that you're looking down, and I think it's rendered in such a way that you really get a sense that he's falling into this pit. And he's in that mid motion where he's spinning before he catches hold of that rope. So, I mean, I think it's really well rendered. Other than the fact that, you know, his shield's in his right hand, as a lot of folks I'm sure will point out. That doesn't bother me. But the fact that he can grab hold of a rope, at some point, however, he manages to shift it to his left hand in mid fall, and then use his right hand to catch hold of the rope. So all the more impressive.
Well, you know what? The fact that the way he shifts the shield from left hand to right hand in the middle of battle is very impressive. It's very reminiscent of a football player, like who's running with the football and carried in one arm, and then he's running along the left side, and then he sees the defenders running over, and he shifts it to his left side so that they can't pull at it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Good. All right. So what about t-shirt worthy, Rick?
I'm going to go with the opening splash. That's just going to, I think that's totally, it could have been my favorite panel, but I'm going to go with t-shirt worthy because it is so eerie, but I love everything about it that I want the entire page on it. I want the top where it says Captain America 1940, and then Stan Lee presents Captain America, and then the title, and then the credits at the the lower left, and I want it all because it just I know it's 1981, but I could have sworn this was early 70s by looking at this.
Yeah, sure, yeah. No, good choice. It'd be very cool. It'd be a great Halloween shirt.
How about you? What's going on your t-shirt?
Season. You know, I think I'm going to go with the cover, Rick. I'm not crazy about Cap's face rendering in this particular, cover illustration by Marie, but I do like the fighting stance, and I love how it's framed by the open doorway behind him and those spooky.
Does he have his action crouch going on, Bob?
He's got his action crouch, and I love how his shoulders are hunched up behind him. So he's flexing, right? He's putting the flex on his latimus dorsi, and you could tell, just the tension in his right fist that he is clenched and he's ready to head into battle. And I do like the clenched teeth. So I think I don't know. Rick, are you getting ready for Halloween? I'm getting ready for Halloween.
Oh, what are you doing this year? I know every year you have in your block you have things that you put out there for the grown-ups that go by, and each year you have something cool, like you've had the plasma. Right before you had
plasma.
You had the shooters in the long
the test tubes. Right. During COVID, we had brain sanitizer. I had a big jug of brain sanitizer that you had like a pump cup with little plastic cups that you pump out your brain sanitizer. This year, I'm going all out. I'm doing the blood plasma bags.
Nice.
I have
with vodka cranberry.
Yep, vodka cranberry juice. I have syringes that you can do Jello shots in these big plastic syringes. And so I'm actually I think I'm going to
No, there's no way Jello is going to come out of those.
They're very large. I just got them today. Very large syringes that you can squirt Jello shots in your mouth. And then the pièce de résistance, Rick. My wife just shook her head when I told her this. And these came in today as well. So you ever go do a physical and they give you a cup and say, we're going to
using the whole fist there, Doc?
We're going to need a urine sample. And it's that little plastic cup with the blue lid that screws on.
Yeah.
Right. I got 25, 30 of those. And so I'm going to have limoncello and limoncello in these specimen cups on my table. So you could go with the blood plasma, you could go with the specimen cups with the very urine looking limoncello.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's going to be
I'm so glad you went with that and not milk.
No, yeah, but not. So next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm in a Halloween state of mind. Oh yeah, we'll get pictures. Halloween state of mind. So the cover is 'tis the season for this kind of t-shirt.
All right. What are you putting in your time capsule?
All right. Well, I'm going a little outside of our normal because, I'm finding these are increasingly difficult for me. But I decided, we talked about that ad with, was it Johnson's?
Yes.
Yes, Johnson's, right? Johnson Smith Company. But as I was going through this issue, I noticed that there's a 2-page ad from Mile High Comics.
Yeah.
So, as you know, Mile High Comics was founded in 1969 by Chuck Rosansky. And so I was looking
we're not getting paid by them, Bob.
We're not.
That, right?
We are certainly not, right? And so there's a 2-page ad with a list of comics for sale. List expires May 31st, 1981. So, the prices are only good for that. But I was looking at the prices for Captain America comics, and it occurred to me that we had somebody, I think, in the Facebook group this week. And I know you saw this post. It was by Brian Marlette. Now, Brian's a pastor and a Captain America fan, and his congregation bought him a copy, I believe, of Captain America 100.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Remember that? Great post, wonderful story. Really happy for him. But in this Mile High Comics ad for Captain America 100, it was going for a whopping $12. Yeah. And 117, I think, was going for $6 in 1981. But the thing that caught my attention, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, was there was a tiny little ad within this ad about Dazzler #1. And it said, by special arrangement with Marvel Comics, we are keeping this limited distribution issue at 50 cents, which was the cover price, until March 1st, 1981. And it got me thinking about that because, of course, Taylor Swift was recently seen at the Kansas City Chiefs game, because she maybe or may not be dating this football player. And in the box with her was Mr. Wolverine and Mr. Deadpool himself. And so speculation went rampant that she may be debuting in Deadpool 3 as Dazzler.
So what I'm hearing from you, Bob, is that your time capsule is a Mile High ad.
I love it. I love these ads, Rick, right? Because do you see these anymore in comic books?
No, but I will say 2 things. Number one, recently in one of the other comic book groups I'm in, somebody had posted one of these double page ads and said, all right, pick one that you can buy right now, but you have to read the comments section and you cannot do a duplicate of what somebody else had already said.
Ooh, all right.
Right. So I think I end up doing Uncanny X-Men 94. Like the first appearance of all those, characters, the team. And it was $60 at the time.
Wow.
So I went with that one. But anyway, so I saw that recently and I thought that was a really cool idea to kind of like, pick one, whatever. Number 2, I'll accept this, but you are never allowed to do an ad again.
Oh, come on.
No, that is not, you're cheating. You're cheating, but I'll accept it only because you gave a 15-minute explanation, which I now have to edit. Thank you for making this episode even longer.
Oh, it's so exciting though, Rick. The thing is, it is a time capsule worthy because we don't see ads. If we still saw ads in comic books selling old comic books, well, we could say, well, there's nothing changed, but we don't see those anymore. That time has gone by.
Yeah, that's right.
Sadly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well done. Never again.
And your time capsule, Rick?
I'm going to go with page 2, and where Cap is doing a recap of the previous 2 issues.
Okay.
And he said, I received a telegram from Falworth Manor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that, which actually honors the spirit of the whole time capsule thing, is like, what is it about this issue? It's not like a flashback to that time, but it's like from 1981. What is it that is it stands out? And you're just like, and back in 1981, we did telegrams.
All right. You're lucky I didn't go with the Bubble Yum ad.
I am so lucky. I am so lucky.
You know, when I was in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, people
I
called
don't
me
have time for
Bubblicious.
this.
You know why? Because Bubblicious gum was not Bubble Yum, but Bubblicious was the main competitor of Bubble Yum. Very popular at that time. So
you were the main
Bubblicious
competitor of something.
I was Bubblicious. That was my.
You were Bubblicious.
Yeah.
What? Because of the name Bob.
That's right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You were Bobblicious. Don't you even try. It was Bobblicious, wasn't it? Right. Don't deny it.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right.
Yeah.
Bobblicious. All right. Next episode, Bob. You know what? We talked about how Gene Colan, had not been, he had done that nice long run for Captain America and then had not been on Cap for like, what was it, 10 years or something like that?
Right.
Well, guess what? He comes back one more time after this issue of Captain America 256. He comes back one more time, and it's all the way in 2009. We're going to cover Captain America 601, and that is a World War II tale that involved vampires. Now, it's going to come out on November 1st. So we're just missing Halloween, but we just had to do it, right? One more Halloween-like tale, because we've been doing that right recently for this month. Let's do one more in honor of Gene Colan. So come back next episode, and we will cover Captain America 601.
Exciting.
It is. All right, Bob, you got anything else?
I surely do not, Rick.
Bob, you should kind of like, every once in a while you should be like, yeah, Rick. Hey, listeners, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on any of your podcasts, because we haven't gotten an Apple review, dude, in like 5 months.
You think if I make the appeal that
apparently it ain't happening with me.
People are like, oh yeah, Bob, he's the sweet one. And we're gonna review and rate and subscribe.
Yeah. We don't do that jerk Rick. That pedophile.
That's right. What are you doing? Don't touch me.
Oh my God.
That was a great story, Rick. I could almost, it almost felt like I was there, and I could, you were reliving the experience as a form of therapy, but not in a good way.
It totally was. It was very therapeutic. Again, apologies to our listeners. All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you have been listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.